Hi everyone, welcome back to Books with Karen. I'm Karen, and today's video is another Should You Judge the Book by Its Cover video. I did one of these a couple of weeks ago where I went into Waterstones and I took photographs of, I think it was 7 books that caught me attention because of the cover of the book, and I thought I might like to read them. And then what I did was I went onto the Waterstones website and read the blurb and decided whether the cover actually reflected what the book was about and did I actually want to read it. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it at the end of this video so you can go across and have a look. So I thought I'd do it a little bit different today. So I went back into Waterstones and I took photographs of 8 books that I wouldn't normally pick up. So book covers that didn't grab me attention or turned us off for some reason, but they aren't books that I would have wanted to pick up and find out more about. And I think unless you know the author, then what makes you actually pick that book up? And for me, it would be the cover or the title, something like that. So these are ones that definitely I wouldn't have picked up and I wouldn't have wanted to read. So I'm going to go through them and we'll have a look at the blurbs on Waterstones and see what they're about and see if my first thoughts were right and I should judge the book by its cover. So let's have a look at the first one. I will put the picture of it in here and I am reading from the website, so if I'm looking away from camera, that's why. The first one is a book called The Sunshine Man by Emma Stonex. I hadn't heard of any of these authors, so I wasn't drawn to them because of, or not drawn to them because of who the author was. I think the cover of this one, I think it was the title more than anything that would have put me off, The Sunshine Man. I tend to read books about women, written by women. Obviously I have veered from that, but I think it was the title that wouldn't have grabbed me on this one. I didn't particularly like the cover. It didn't say what it was. So let's have a look. It says, I'm just going to put my specs on so I can read this properly. From the author of the best-selling The Lamplighters comes a pulsating cat-and-mouse thriller featuring a pair of unforgettable protagonists as Birdie Keller sets out to end the life of her recently released sister's killer. Now, I hadn't heard of The Lamplighters, but that actually has grabbed me in a little bit. A cat-and-mouse thriller, that sounds like something that I want to read. It says, Birdie Keller wakes up one freezing January morning to hear that her sister's killer has been freed from jail. Birdie leaves for London with a pistol and a plan to find this man and make him pay. She's been waiting 2 decades to get him, biding her time, here at last, revenge. That does sound like something I would want to read, so already I'm wrong about the cover. So begins a cat and mouse chase that takes Birdie from the grit and grime of city nicks to wild and windswept moors to the savage beauty of the Cornish coast and finally to Devon, her homeland, back to the place where it all began as she vows to finish the story. I love things that are set in Devon and Cornwall for some reason, just a beautiful part of the country. But every story has 2 sides because Jimmy Maguire, the man she's after, knew Birdie a long time ago in a life she'd sooner forget. They've got history and he isn't the only one with a secret. As Jimmy travels south to face his past, a tangled web of family ties and broken bonds, he can sense that something is hunting him. Birdie lingers there in the darkness, but so does a terrible truth he's run from all these years, one he's never had the courage to confront. So yeah, definitely a book that I would want to read. So the first one is something I would pick up. The next book is a book called Sunstruck and it is by William Rayford Hunter. I didn't particularly like the cover of this. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it was the black cover. I don't know. I didn't like the cover. And again, it is by a male author. Not usually something I would pick up. So let's have a look at this one. Sensual yet searing, Hunter's acutely observed novel mines themes of race, status and identity as a working-class black man attempts to navigate the opulent world of a wealthy family. That has hooked me attention. It's summer and a young man walks through the gates of a luxurious mansion in the south of France. At the dinner table, the Blakes are waiting for him. Annie, the family matriarch and world-famous singer, her inscrutable husband David, and their children Dot, aloof and rebellious, Lily, the man's carefree university friend, and their enigmatic older brother Felix. So she's not telling, or he's not telling us the man's name, which is interesting, but it does sound kind of interesting. Between sun-drenched days spent lounging by the pool and nights blurring into endless opulent parties far from the reality of life in London, a restless attraction grows between Felix and the man. The possibility to be part of a family and an entire world in which he doesn't belong is suddenly within reach. But the idyllic haze of the summer slowly fades as they return to the city. While the man struggles with his troubled past and the challenges of navigating Felix's world as a black working-class person, Felix is tormented by demons of his own. Still not mentioning the man's name. Why not? That does grab me attention. As their lives spiral out of control, the couple's bond will not only be tested but pulled apart at the seams, altering the course of their lives and the future of those around them. Sunstruck is a dazzling and poignant exploration of race, status, and the parts of ourselves we risk losing when we fall in love. Again, that is a book that I would like to read. So, yeah, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover so far. Let's have a look at the next one. This third one is called The Gentleman and His Vowsmith. And it says Bridgerton with magic and murder. Now, I didn't like Bridgerton, so that would turn me off straight away. I didn't particularly like the cover. It didn't say anything to us. I didn't like the fact that the title was Gentleman because, like I've said, I don't tend to read books that are revolving around men for some reason. And I don't know what a Vowsmith is. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone in any further. But this book is by a female author, Rebecca Ide. And the synopsis says, a sparkling historical fantasy filled with arcane magic, deadly conspiracies, and an irresistible queer romance. I've never read a queer romance, not something I would reach for. It says perfect for fans of Freya Marske, Alexis Hall, and Bridgerton mixed with magic and murder. I haven't heard of those, and I didn't like Bridgerton. I only watched half an episode, and it wasn't for me. So let's read on and see if the rest would grab us. Lord Nicholas Monterez is trapped. The only heir to a declining dukedom, Nick is destined for a marriage of convenience. What he didn't expect was for his bride-to-be, Lady Leaf Serrel, daughter of his father's hated rivals. Now they must all be locked inside mouldering Monterez court for the duration of the contract negotiations, along with head negotiator, Master Vowsmith, Dashiell Savay. Beautiful, perfect Dashiell Savay, an old flame Nick has neither forgiven nor forgotten. What could go wrong? So just after reading that first paragraph of the blurb, the names put me off. I think books where the names are kind of a bit eccentric, over the top, don't really attract us. So let's read on a little bit. Only a dead body turning up mere hours after they lock the doors. The first could be an accident, but a second death reveals something sinister is unfolding at Monterez court, and a long-buried secret begins to surface. As accusations fly, Nick must work with his former lover and his future bride to uncover the killer before they become the next targets. So that second paragraph drew us in. This is possibly a book I would read. It's not something I would rush out to buy, but it may be something that I would put on my list of things that I may want to read, because I do like the killer, the mystery, that kind of thing. So, yeah, what do you think? Would you carry on and want to read that book? Let me know in the comments below. So the fourth book is a book called Death at the White Hart by Chris Chibnall. Now, what put me off this was, or why I wouldn't have reached for this book, is the picture of the stag, or I guess that is a hart, on the front of the book. I don't know why, but anything with deer or stags or anything like that, ornaments or prints on homeware or books, I don't like it. I don't know what it is. It just... It doesn't grab us. I'm not sure why that is. I love wildlife. I'm not sure about the picture of the deer. So that's why I wouldn't have reached for this one. It sounds daft, but there you go. So this one says, When Nicola Bridge moves back to Dorset after years as a CID detective in the big city, the last thing she expects is for the picturesque village of Fleetcombe to become a grisly crime scene. Grisly crime scene. It did say murder on the cover of the book, or death, so, but it was the picture that put me off. Jim Tiernan, landlord of the White Hart pub, has been found dead, the body staged with macabre relish on an isolated country road. As soon as she starts asking questions, Nicola realises everyone in the village has something to hide. Definitely sounds like it's up my street. Frankie the hairdresser, who isn't a skilled enough actor to conceal their lying about the night of the murder, Eddie the delivery driver, whose heart starts racing every time he drives past the crime scene, Dickens, the embittered farmer still living in the shadow of a supposedly murderous ancestor, and even the little girl hidden at the top of the playground slide who's watching them all. Whispers, rumours, lies, but Nicola knows that somewhere among them a killer is hiding in plain sight. That is definitely a book I would want to read. So I need to get over my thing about not wanting to have anything to do with pictures of stags and deer and just read it. That would definitely go on my want to read list. The next book is a book called The Paradox by Daniel Hardcastle. I think it was the title of this book that put me off. The Paradox. Like, what's that about? That sounds a bit airy-fairy to me. Didn't particularly like the picture on the cover, but let's read on. Let's see what it says. The Paradox is a dark sci-fi comedy set hundreds of years in the future. It's also set a fair few years in the past. I probably wouldn't have got past that bit if I'd picked that up and actually read the blurb in the shop. Oisin Shuppel has been working his entire life to resolve the paradox of a desperate audio message from years ago, one which holds a horrifying secret that will change the course of history. His plan: build a time machine and return to the source of the message. But he can't do it alone. Fortunately, the universe has supplied a perfect team: an archaeologist serving 28 life sentences, a veterinarian with an identity crisis and no original body parts, a cheating university student, and a famous but very, very dead starship captain. Yeah, this is definitely not a book for me. I do like sci-fi. I watch sci-fi. I don't read a lot of sci-fi. But dark sci-fi and comedy together, definitely not my genre. Together they will be propelled across the past and to worlds beyond their timelines on a temporal treasure hunt to trace the tragic truth, a lot of tease there, behind whoever Austen Lang turns out to be. But time is not to be trifled with, and every misstep unmasks another layer of chronological chaos. The past can't be changed, but will there be a future worth saving? I don't know about that one. I don't think that I would want to read it. If somebody forced us to read it, then maybe I would. Maybe I should do it as an experiment. Maybe I should read that book and then report back on what I thought of it. But as is, yeah, that's not for me at all. So that would definitely be a case of the cover of the book also reflecting the synopsis. What do you think? The next one, The Dungeon Crawler Call by Matt Dinnerman, is also something. It caught my eye for the wrong reasons because it is a very bold, in-your-face cover. I actually thought it was about football when I first looked at the cover, that guy running for some reason. It isn't a book I would have wanted to read. It says Dungeon Crawler Call 1, so it sounds like it's the first in a series. So let's have a look. The opening book in Dinnerman's addictive Dungeon Crawler Call series, but if this is the first book, how do the notes an addictive series? Unless the other books have already been out. Oh no, because this is the first one. It's a bit strange, I'm not sure. Finds the titular Coast Guard vet and his ex-girlfriend's cat trying to survive an alien invasion and the end of the world in a fantasy-fueled thrill ride of a story. Now, I've said before that I have read books with talking cats. This doesn't say talking, but it's got a cat in it. Doesn't totally put us off. The alien invasion? I don't know, I'm not sure. The apocalypse will be televised. Anything to do with apocalypse usually turns me off straight away. Not my thing. Welcome to the first book in the wildly popular and addictive Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinnerman, now with bonus material exclusive to this print edition. I wonder if this was in some different format, if it was in... I'm not sure. If anybody's heard of this, let us know in the comments below. You know what's worse than breaking up with your girlfriend? Being stuck with her prize-winning show cat. And you know what's worse than that? An alien invasion, the destruction of all man-made structures on Earth, and the systematic exploitation of all the survivors for a sadistic intergalactic game show. That's what. This is something I would possibly watch as a film. So maybe I should read it as a book. I don't know. Join Coast Guard vet Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, what a brilliant name for a cat, as they try to survive the end of the world or just get to the next level in a video game-like trap-filled fantasy dungeon. A dungeon that's actually the set of a reality television show with countless viewers across the galaxy. Exploding goblins, magical potions, deadly drug-dealing llamas. This ain't your ordinary game show. I'm not sure about that. Maybe that's another one. Maybe I will read this one and the Paradox and then report back at some point. Let me know in the comments if you think that would be a good idea, because that, as is not something that I would buy and read. Definitely not. But the reason that I run a book club and enjoy a book club is because it pushes you out of your comfort zone, and those two books would definitely push me out of my comfort zone. So let's move on to the 7th book. There's only 2 left. This is called The Handmade God by Rachel Joyce. Again, not keen on the title, The Homemade God. The cover, a little bit wishy-washy, so not really sure what it was about, so I wouldn't have picked it up. So let's see what the blurb says. 4 siblings gather at their recently deceased artist father's Italian lakeside villa to uncover an unexpected legacy of secrets about him, their new stepmother, and themselves in this deliciously perceptive novel from the author of The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. Now, I did watch the film about Harold Fry. It was okay. It was a bit of a nothing film. I didn't read the book, so maybe that was better. Family is everything, even when it falls apart. Discover the brand new novel from the multi-million copy best-selling author. Goose and his 3 sisters gather at the family's house by Lake Orta in Piedmont, Italy. Their father, a famous artist, has recently remarried a much younger woman and decamped to Italy to finish his masterpiece. Now he is dead and there is no sign of a painting. It gives us vibes of something else I've read or some other book I've looked at. And still doesn't really grab us. Although the siblings have always been close, as they search for answers over that summer, the things they learn about themselves, their father and their new stepmother will drive them apart before they can come to any kind of understanding of what their father's legacy truly is. Extraordinarily compelling at heart, this is a novel about sibling relationships and those hairline cracks that can appear within a family, what happens when they splinter and what it would take to mend them. This sounds like quite an old-fashioned kind of story, something I feel like it's maybe something I've read before. So yeah, the blurb still wouldn't make me want to read that. I don't know what it is about it, it's just not compelling enough to make me think, yeah, I want to read that book. So definitely judge that book by its cover. For me, I wouldn't want to read it. The last book is called Our Last Wild Days, and it is by Anna Bailey. And I think it was the picture on the cover of this book that put me off. I'm not sure why. It just didn't grab us for some reason. And Our Last Wild Days, the title didn't grab us either. I think the title with the picture didn't match up for me, so it wouldn't have been something I wanted to pick up. It's strange what makes you want to read a book and what doesn't. So what does the blurb say? Set in small-town southern Louisiana, this evocative page-turning closed community thriller from the author of Tall Bones, not heard of it, finds a woman recently returned to her hometown set on discovering what truly happened to her childhood friend found dead in the muddy swamp. this kind of gives us vibes of a book called The Dry, and possibly Where the Crawdads Sing. I'm not sure why. I think the cover of the book gave us those vibes as well. Now, I did quite enjoy both of the books, but I think they were books I read for a book club, so they may not be books that I would rush to read on my own, and that's probably why I wouldn't have gone for this book. The Le Basques aren't like other families. Living in a shack out in the swamps, they scrape a living hunting down alligators just to get by. Good way to get by. To the good people of Jackknife, Louisiana, they are troublemakers, outcasts, the kind of people you wouldn't want living on your doorstep. So when Cutter Le Basque is found face down in the muddy swamp, no one seems to care, not even her two rough-cut brothers. The only person who questions the official verdict of suicide is Cutter's childhood friend, Loyal May, who has just returned home to care for her ageing mother. Loyal left town at the age of 18, having betrayed everything she valued most. Now there may be no way for her to find forgiveness, but there may be restitution if she can find out what really did happen to Cutter. Set against the haunting beauty of southern Louisiana, Our Last Wild Days is a compulsive, evocative novel about a tight-knit community and the secrets they want to keep hidden. It is a little bit kind of the book that I would read. The secrets, the murder or suicide, does draw me attention. But there is just something about that doesn't really grab us and say, I want to buy it and read it. So it may be a book that I would put on the maybe list, but not a book I would definitely rush out and buy. So those are the 8 books that wouldn't grab my attention in Waterstones, but did for that reason. I hope you found that interesting. Like I said, let me know in the comments below if any of those book covers would have grabbed your attention, and then if when reading the blurb you would have decided, yes, I want to read that. Let me know in the comments below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.